Hello and welcome to the Minutes to Win It podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Talking about tonight's Friday action, and oddly enough, we have the same size slate on Friday as we did last night on Thursday. So NBA giving us more playable slates this year, but less of the big slates, the extra fun GPP slates where you're going to see guys hitting 375 and on FanDuel and things like that. But either way, 6-game slate. We've had better, to be honest. It's not the best slate.
Statement.
Yeah, but this is a slate that's got a lot of top plays and going to be one of those situations where you can't wait to see what value opens up throughout the day because you're going to need some of it to pay for some of these top guys. But we'll go position by position here. John Wall, going to be a popular cash game play once again, coming off his 2 best games of the season back-to-back. 2 great matchups. Now he gets another one. FanDuel catching up to his price here. He's up to $9,000. DraftKings still giving us that early Christmas present on his price at $8,300. So I think he's probably going to be the most popular play, especially on DraftKings as far as the top guys go. But really hard to argue against him. I know he'll be in my cash game lineups.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's a top point guard play. And, look at this game is pretty fantasy friendly on both sides. And with Phoenix struggling to defend point guards, it's just another easy matchup for Wall.
Yeah, and on the opposite side of it, of course, Brandon Knight, similarly, or discount on both sites actually, but a significant one on FanDuel, $1,000, not so much on DraftKings, but certainly a guy to consider. Another guy who's coming off of 2 huge games that you were big on the other day in his monster game, Reggie Jackson. He's a guy who has shown a lower floor than we'd like at times, but he's facing off against a Milwaukee team that is actually the team he had his worst game of the season against, but it was a blowout. Only played 24 minutes, but Reggie Jackson certainly has that big-time upside. Milwaukee, as we know, one of the worst defensive teams, if not the worst in all of basketball. So definitely Reggie Jackson, a nice GPP alternative to these other guys here.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think, size-wise, I don't like picking on Milwaukee, and they're still a pretty tough defensive team for jump shooters there. But Reggie Jackson, he's been known to get to the hoop, but definitely just a tournament play.
Yeah, as far as cheap guys go, we got Patrick Beverley around 4K on both sites. Not a guy that you love, but he's a guy that's got a floor around 20 points, playing upwards of 28 to 30 minutes most nights right now. So he's a guy you certainly consider. And then JJ Barea out again, which means that we get yet again Darren Williams, whose price is starting to creep up, but coming off now his best game of the season as well. A lot of guys coming off their best game of the season. But Darren Williams, his price still pretty nice across both sites. And facing off against the Houston team, obviously he'll probably see a little bit of Patrick Beverley, who is still a good defender in his own right, but he's a viable, cheaper alternative if you can't quite get that second upper tier point guard tonight.
Yeah. Raymond Felton staying in that same game. He's been getting 30 minutes in the last 5 games, and it's been kind of consistent. I mean, he's been averaging 23 DraftKings points in that time, and with Barea out, he's going to continue to get an uptick in minutes. So I think for a cheap play, he's not a bad option either.
Yeah, I like that a lot as well. Outside of that, point guard, nothing that really stands out. I mean, you've got Tyreek Evans, kind of overpriced for his current role on FanDuel. A GPP guy, I guess, at $7,500, but shooting guard at $66 on DraftKings is a nice option there.
Yeah.
Shooting guard options, obviously, if you're paying up, James Harden is the guy that you want. As always, he's got the highest floor. He's got the highest ceiling. One of the best players in all the NBA in any position, especially a scarce shooting guard position. So if you can fit him in, that's the guy you want. And one of the higher totals of the night against Dallas. If not, if you like a floor, you got guys like Bradley Beal, Eric Bledsoe, both have nice floors. Neither one has shown huge upside relative to their price recently, but both guys have shown a pretty solid floor, though. And both guys playing, mid to upper 30s in minutes.
Yeah, I mean, those are the 2 top options. I think Harden gives you the ceiling that Bledsoe doesn't. But if you're looking at cash games, I think either are pretty much fine tonight if you want to save that extra few thousand going with Bledsoe in a good matchup as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then other options at shooting guard, J.R. Smith's been pretty consistent recently as far as minutes and his production relative. 36, 39, 31 minutes his last 3, played 36 or more in 9 of his last 10 games. So if you're looking for a guy that's going to get you a solid amount of minutes, not an extremely productive guy, fairly scoring reliant, but if you need a filler in your cash games, I mean, he's a pretty safe bet to get you 35 minutes and 20 to 25 fantasy points, and facing off against a New Orleans team that's just an awful all-around defensive team.
Yeah, I think any lower, I mean, it's tough. Wes Matthews probably the only other viable option here if you want to go cheap. Gotta love that high total there. Dallas is one of the higher totals on the night. I think Wes Matthews has been okay for the price, but he just doesn't look like his old self.
No, not quite yet. I'm hoping that he comes back around, but like you said, his price is still cheap. He's seeing 30 mid 30s in minutes at least most games here. So at his price, I think he's an okay cash play. But like you said, hasn't really shown that GPP type of upside that you're looking for there. Moving on here to small forward. Of course, you got LeBron James up top. He's going to be matching up with, whoever they throw at him. Dante Cunningham, Tyreek Evans. Hopefully for the New Orleans sake, they can get some Tyreek Evans on him a decent amount. But, LeBron, he has that 40-point floor, and that's all that he has right now because that's all he's really needed to have. As we keep talking about, he's been deferring to Kevin Love. He's been playing, LeBron-type minutes. He's been playing 37, 36, 38, 40. Huge minutes, but just hasn't shown that huge upside recently, which is strange, especially the fact that Kyrie Irving still hasn't played. So, if you want to lock in that floor, that's fine. But if I'm paying $10K for somebody, I don't want a 40 to 45 point range that he's shown in his last 8 or 9 games. I want, 45 to 65.
Yeah, I think small forward's tricky tonight because there's no one else who really has the floor LeBron has. So you basically be paying up for that floor. And like you mentioned, he just hasn't had that upside that I want for a 10,000 plus player. And, like Davis and Harden, they give you 60-point upside each night. I just don't like a lot of small forwards. I think I'll probably punt this area tonight. And, I'm with you. Is LeBron just being a guy I don't want it.
Yeah. TJ Warren, another interesting option. We know how bad Washington's been against the 3 this year. Obviously, this is an up-tempo game, one of the higher totals on the night. Should be a close game as well. He's still cheap. His minutes, 19 and 21 his last 2 games, 30 and 35 2 games before that. Tend to think that he's going to be bumped back into the mid-20s. But we know it's also a situation where if he's doing well, if the shot's falling, it's kind of the hot hand thing. He can end up seeing, 30-ish minutes there. I think he's probably the best of the cheap guys that don't make you want to throw up, at least. Like he's the most talented of the cheap guys with the most potential upside, I should say.
Yeah, I like him in this matchup, up-tempo game. And look at Warren. He's a much better fantasy points per minute guy than PJ Tucker, who just seems to be just standing there in the court, grabbing some popcorn off courtside seats when he plays. So, you look at last game, he only got 21 minutes but scored 20 DraftKings points. Tucker played 30 and ended up with less. So, Warren's the guy I would want out of those two.
Yeah, and one other guy we can throw out there as a cash game filler, Thabo Sefolosha has been playing big minutes, 33 and 39 his last 2. Against his old team OKC, 39 minutes, did not score an actual point, but 25.6 FanDuel points. So it's encouraging. It's a guy like that. He's a specialty defender. He's the guy that goes out there, he gets rebounds, and he plays defense, and he steals the ball, and that's all he does. But that's what you're paying for is the high floor with him. Any shots falling is just a nice bonus. But, he doesn't have massive upside, but he should be able to get you 20 to 25 fantasy points at that price. So I think he's a fine filler as well.
Yeah, and anyone playing the Lakers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plug them in.
Yeah, you don't need elite defenders against the Lakers, although the Wizards probably wish they'd had a couple the other day. Power forward options, of course, it's Anthony Love. I'm thinking 2 guys. Anthony Davis up top. He's just been absolutely phenomenal. That game against the Clippers is only downside. I'm not counting the game against Denver where he got hurt, but aside from that, 49 or more FanDuel points, high of 65 each of his last 8 games. The guy's he's got a tremendous floor, great ceiling. His individual matchup with Kevin Love, which is why I was mixing the 2 up. They'll be mixed up down low. Is a good one. Kevin Love's not a great defender, and Kevin Love coming off of his worst offensive game of the season, 8 and 8 in 33 minutes. You see that line, you wonder, did he get in foul trouble? What happened? But no, he just wasn't producing. Shot wasn't falling. So Kevin Love, I don't want to say he's overpriced, but it's a tough matchup. Haven't seen very many guys have good production against Anthony Davis, although the Pelicans as a team, still a bad defensive team, a bad rebounding team. It's Davis, and it's everyone else as far as rebounding and defense goes down low. So Kevin Love's still a guy to consider, but I think I'd rather have a guy like Paul Millsap, though.
Yep, I'm with you there. Millsap, one of my favorite plays tonight. Also, you can throw Porzingis in the mix in that price range. I'm just not on Love tonight. I don't think the upside's there in this matchup where he should be a little bit limited offensively and rebound-wise, which is he really, that's all he offers, not a big steals guy. So I just think the ceiling's not as high tonight. So I like Millsap. He's probably one of my favorite points per dollar plays tonight just because he's still pretty cheap and gets a great matchup.
Yeah, another guy you can take advantage of due to the recency bias. Still getting minutes, 36, 31, 36, 37 his last four. Thad Young, 6,600 on FanDuel, facing off against New York. We know they're a slow-paced team. Brooklyn, a fairly slow-paced team themselves, and coming off his worst game of the season, was on a real nice stretch there for a little while, and he, along with Kevin Love and most of mine and a lot of other people cash games lineups, chose the same night to have their bad games. But those guys both in play. And then another interesting one, Julius Randle is a guy who's been playing well recently. Only concern with him is he does not play big minutes, 31, 28, 27, and 30 his last four. Been really productive, though. Atlanta, as we know, they're slowly getting better, but have been a bad rebounding team all season long. So a guy like Randle should be able to clean up on the glass tonight.
Yeah, I really like Randle. It's a nice cheap play. I'm glad you mentioned him. Matchup's pretty solid. I don't think Atlanta's the defensive team they used to be like last year. So I'm not really afraid of Randle, especially at this price. Seems like an easy double-double night for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then looking out at cheaper guys, depending on the Markieff Morris, Tyson Chandler situation, Mirza Teletovic, John Lure, both those guys could be in play. I think if both Markieff and Tyson play, the only guy I would really consider would be Mirza. Lure, obviously, just not much of a scorer. He's the guy that kind of needs minutes to produce, but Mirza can fill it up in a hurry if he sees 20 to 25 minutes. But definitely monitor the status of those other guys to see. And then Chris Humphrey's going to be the other guy that steps up. Should see more minutes. There's no guarantee there, but Marcin Gortat's going to be out for, I think they said 2 games, at least 2 games. Absolute minimum on FanDuel, close to that on DraftKings as well. So he's a guy to put on your radar too.
Yep.
Looking at center options, of course, you got Andre Drummond against Milwaukee, who is a bad rebounding team. He went for 15 and 15 against this team in 24 minutes in a blowout loss last time. So you consider him. Look at the other side as well. And with Greg Monroe, really cheap on DraftKings, only 6,900. He's another guy to consider. With Dwight Howard out, of course, you got to look at Zaza Pachulia, his minutes have been somewhat inconsistent at times, but you assume he's going to be in that 30 to 32 range tonight. I mean, this guy's just been a walking double-double all season long. So if you want that mid-range, somewhat upside type of play, I think he makes a lot of sense tonight.
Yeah, I think he's a better tournament play just because I think we both like Capella for cash games. Yeah. Just a little safer option, but Pachulia has shown the upside, but definitely has kind of a bit of a lower floor with now his rise to salary tag.
Yeah, and like we mentioned with Capella, 47 on FanDuel, 58 on DraftKings. More of a FanDuel play for us, but still a guy you can consider with Dwight Howard out on DraftKings as well. All right, that'll wrap things up here for us for the Minutes to Win It. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out the rest of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.